All right, welcome. Welcome to everybody who's watching and listening. This is one of multiple episodes of me, Dr. Ashwin Mehta, and Dr. Taryn Hess in conversation about a paper we've written on data literacy in the age of generative AI. So, Taryn, welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. We've been talking about this for a while. Obviously, we're both very passionate about this, so looking forward to one of many good conversations that we've already had, and now we can share that out with everybody.
Absolutely. So the context for us writing a paper together. So I was giving a speech in Braddon Hall, I think, and I was talking about in Florida, and I was talking about data literacy and data being the fuel for the AI engine, and data being the thing that allows us to demonstrate impact, and data literacy being something that has been potentially lacking over the years in various pockets of the world, but something that is going to need to be focused upon in the new age, in the AI revolution. And that's kind of how we met, and that started this journey of writing a paper together. So let me open that part of the conversation. Data literacy, what does it mean to you, and how important do you think it is?
Man, so when I think a few perspectives on that. One, personally, when I think about data, it is such an important part of everything that I do as a person, right? And what I think about, and when I'm working with a client, when I'm working on my own things, when I'm even day to day looking at, does it make more sense to buy this thing or that thing, and comparing apples to apples and looking at different grocery stores. So fundamentally, data is the fuel to making decisions, and it's the fuel to thinking critically about whatever it might be. Again, personal life, professional life, helping others. So it's so important. When I think about it then in terms of like industry, and I'm thinking about learning people and instructional designers and the education system and even technology, learning technology, it is an area where we've been lacking a bit, if we're being honest. There's so much opportunity there to think about data and to leverage it better, to be able to make, again, those decisions on what does the next phase of life look like with AI, especially when you're talking about learning. So it's so important. And then when you break that down even further, yes, having the skills and the knowledge and the abilities to use data is important, so the literacy part of it. But then you have to, there's this piece of mindset and the human piece of it. So you have to be able to not just, yes, have those skill sets, but put it first, put data first, ask for data, demand data, use data, think about data all the time. So yes, knowledge, skills, ability around data, being able to use it to communicate effectively, and especially within context. So all of those pieces, all of that, which was not a succinct definition, but all of that is what data literacy means to me.
Yeah, I think you raised an interesting point there. And the point is that we talk about data literacy in the context of work. We talk about it in the context of learning and development and human capital management and basically the value chain of the business. But it's not just about business, it's about life. And that's the point that you make that made me think about so many stories. But I remember I grew up in Liverpool in the UK. And I don't know if this is indicative of the entirety of the UK, but I regularly had conversations with people where they would say, you know what? They would almost say it as a badge of honor to say that I'm terrible at maths. I'm not very good at this. And I'm more interested, and it's fine for people to be interested in these things, but I'm more interested in doing practical things. And I think at the time I was thinking that anybody can be interested in anything. That's all cool. But to wear something as a badge of honor that you're bad at didn't make sense to me. And it never really resonated with me or my culture or my upbringing. But that kind of thing translates through to modern day, right? In my life, again, I go down to the supermarket down the road. I won't name them because, but I go down to the supermarket down the road and they have these aisles, and you have like the cooked meat or the cheese aisle. And if you go down the aisle, you have smaller packages, larger packages, and they're all like priced appropriately. And then you get to the end of the aisle and you have like a multi-buy. Buy 2 of this package size for a particular amount of money. And those are the ones that go because they're on the end. Product placement in a supermarket is a thing. But if you stop for a second and you look at the data that's in front of you, the number of grams you're getting for the number of pennies you are spending, it's nearly always better value to go down into the aisle and pick things out of the aisle. And part of me wonders again, is this the art and the science of product placement in a physical space? Or is this people not really looking at the data? Or is it people not really understanding the data? So I think your point about this being a life skill rather than just being a business skill, I think is so important when we think about data literacy. So
it's the human factor to this, right? Marketing people know what they're doing. Product placement, they know what they're doing completely. It's the 2-for-1 that it, or like buy two, get one, whatever it might be, that we think we're getting so much more. And yeah, agreed. So they're tapping into that, the human side of us that's thinking we're getting more than we really are. But we have to think critically. Oh my gosh. I do that all the time. Sometimes I give in and I'm like, oh yeah, I got a deal. But then other times I'm like, wait, let me actually do the math, which takes like very little time, but let me do it. And they're like, whoa, that's actually more money to buy. Yes, completely.
But interesting, marketing. So I had one of these conversations with a marketing person, maybe I'm going to say 3 weeks ago, something like that. And we were having this conversation about marketing and learning are not that different in terms of what they do. So you have the concept of I'm going to make some media, and through that media, I hope to change behavior, whether it's the purchasing behavior of a customer or a consumer, or whether it is the behavior of an employee in a workplace. The idea is that you hope through intervention, through doing something, and usually that's digital media, you hope that the behavior will change and you get some kind of impact, some kind of revenue or sale kind of behavior, which is interesting because if we think about both of those in terms of data now, and data literacy is the topic that we're discussing, then both of those professions kind of rely on the idea of traffic metrics, vanity metrics. So how many people passed through my website? How many people clicked on the particular thing that I put out there? And that's not the same as thinking about success metrics or success criteria or performance indicators for the problem that you're trying to solve with the intervention that you put forward. And I don't know if that's a culture issue or if it's a data literacy issue or if it's just sometimes data is difficult to collect. We don't have the sources. We have to put effort into it. But I wonder how much of this kind of paradigm that I'm describing in marketing and learning, where there is the need to do things differently to demonstrate different outcomes, I wonder how much of that paradigm touches other parts of the business. So we have the functional parts of businesses like, IT and security and safety and quality and these kinds of things, sustainability. But we also have product teams. Most businesses either have a product or a service and they sell that product or service and they make money from it. So in your experience, how widespread is the potential issue around data literacy and the use of data?
I think it's desperate. So I think depending on the industry, depending on the role that you have within a company, within an industry, it's very widespread to me. So when I think about, if I'm pulling it back into when I think about L&D types of roles, a lot of time, as you said, almost like vanity metric, right? Like, do people attend my workshop kind of thing? Well, okay, that's important to know if they showed up, right? Because fundamentally, if they're not there, they can't be engaged. You can't change behavior if they aren't just showing up. The part that I always see, at least, again, just within this context, is the follow-up. Did they adopt it? Was it useful? Am I looking at it 30, 60, 90, 120 days out? Those are the things that don't always get measured. So, but why not? Why aren't they getting measured? We should go out and measure them. We should look at what's really happening on the ground. Well, oftentimes, we aren't allowed to do that. We're just frankly cut off. We're told, okay, build this training for me and go do this thing. And then the business takes it from there. So it needs to be a conversation. It needs to be a partnership between both areas in order to really get at metrics that matter. Let's look at performance. Let's look at adoption. Let's look at our behaviors actually changing. So going beyond those vanity metrics and looking at actual change. So again, that takes a shift. It takes a shift in that partnership. It takes a shift in understanding the value that someone in an L&D role can provide after the fact. They're not there to just build the training and facilitate it maybe for you or to launch it for you if it's an e-learning or some type of media. They need to be there to see, did it work, so they can make adjustments. So some steps towards that could be piloting and actually doing a real pilot and getting the feedback and then growing it from there and then seeing how that cultivates and changes the ultimate behaviors of those people. Well, then there's one context. If you think about that, though, with groups of people who are used to using data, they're probably more comfortable with it. They're going to have those conversations. They're going to look at metrics and build out metrics and get the data that they need, or at least understand the data that they need better to be able to make those changes. So for me, it's really dependent on your role and traditionally whether you use data and whether you're allowed to use data. Because again, a lot of people within some kind of education capacity aren't even allowed to talk to people after the fact. They're going to cut off. So we have to shift, and that's where that mindset piece comes in, right? And you have to shift mindset, and then from there, you have to shift process. You have to shift the types of data we're allowed to share with each other even. So some of that, we often get to, and we talk about data as an enterprise asset. That's real, and that should happen. Now, you obviously have to protect some data. There's some personal data that we can't just share out with everybody, or maybe there's some business data that can't be shared out, but you have to shift some things to me in order to make it real and to make it data, to take the full advantage of the data that we have.